Hi, my name is Saif I. I'm a second year medical student at Sunderland University. This video is on how to prepare for your exams at medical school. At medical school, you'll probably have a different set of exams as well. So for us, we had our knowledge domain where we had written exams. These consisted of SBAs, EMQs and KFPs, which I'll go into further detail later in this video. We also had OSCEs, which were objective structured clinical examinations. And on top of that, we had assessments in an e-portfolio, in a scholarship domain. And again, we'll unpack this later in the video. So let's start off with the knowledge domain. So this was the written exams. We had SBAs, EMQs and KFPs. When it comes to sort of preparing for these, firstly, I obviously made sure I understood the concepts, I understood what the lectures were, and sort of not line by line committing things to memory, but making sure that I at least understood key processes and isolated facts for the SBAs. When it came to practicing, and of course practice was very important for these exams, I made some like little KFPs and I did this with friends. That way we had sort of a question bank. And again, for context, KFPs are sort of long answer style questions based on a STEM. So you might get asked, for example, if you've got a STEM on asthma, the first question might be signs and symptoms of asthma, and the next one might be the pathophysiology, and so on. And with a layout like that, you can almost predict questions that are going to come up with respect to KFPs. And that happened to be the case for us in our exams, which was obviously really good. EMQs are a little bit more difficult to prepare for. I found that EMQs could sometimes be image occluded figures, so I made sure that I understood figures in the key textbooks, such as the anatomy textbooks and in the lecture slides as well. That way, if we were given anything that was occluded, you'd be able to answer it. In terms of sort of worded EMQs, I made sure that I understood the links between different concepts. So a good example for this could be a range of different drugs, where if a question where if you've got 10 different drugs and the question is saying something specific about one drug, I'd know which one to select. And I think all of that came from pretty much practice. And I found that once I understood everything, most of my scores started going up once I started practicing the exams. And being quite honest, when I got close to the exams, I made sure that I did these in timed conditions and quietly as well. But bear in mind, I started doing this about a month or so before the exams for each of the exams because I didn't want to sort of burn out. So throughout the year, I'd actually enjoy my year, do my own thing. And then when it came close to the exams, that's when I'd sort of enter the exam mode. Now moving on to the OSCEs, I've made a video on this going into further detail, but in brief, these were the sort of communication skills and the clinical skills. I prepared best for these by doing practice with friends and also making sure I understood the crib sheets properly. That way, when I came to the exams, I was fully prepared for that. Again, if you want more tips on the OSCEs, just go on that video. Finally, in terms of the e-portfolio, I made sure that I understood clinical encounters that I had, and then I did my learner-centered and Gibbs forms. I also sent off tab forms to other course mates and people in my groups. That way, we've got all those sort of things ticked off. We also had something called a CI points domain, which was making sure that you attend lectures and that you sort of engage in feedback forms. In terms of attending lectures, obviously that was really important, and I feel like that's something that's hard to get wrong. Finally, we had our scholarship. In second year, we had a CPP and NICE panel. CPP essentially was working in the community. Mine was at a horticultural site and we spent about 20 hours there. After this, we had to write an essay report, and then we had to submit a poster as well, which we then presented later on in the year. And that was actually quite a nice experience in improving your presentation skills, really. In terms of the NICE panel, we were allocated a group where one person was the chair and the rest of us sort of represented different sort of members of the panel, and kind of was a consultant ophthalmologist in mine. And we produced a PowerPoint, and this would sort of go through the agendas and what we'd like to get out of things. And this was then assessed by 2 markers, and we got given a score for that as well. In terms of allocations for second year, I believe it was 55% for the written exams, 35% for the OSCEs, and 10% for the scholarship. The CI points didn't sort of like await into your score, but it did sort of impact whether or not you'd get into next year, because then you'd obviously have to do further things over summer. But yeah, I guess if I had to summarise that, really is having effective revision strategies. This will be something we'll unpack in a further video, but in terms of this video, making sure that you are actually preparing and doing practice for the written exams, practicing again with your friends for OSCEs, and making sure you're actually at least turning up to your lectures. In terms of exam days, making sure that you're actually looking after yourself on the exam day, having a good sleep, having breakfast on the day itself, potentially not having coffee before the exam. I've heard mixed things about this. Some people have said don't, some people have said do what suits you. I, to be honest, did have coffee, but I didn't have a lot. I had enough to sort of wake me up, but I wouldn't have like 3-4 cups of coffee because I didn't want to be like jittering in my exam. Hope this video has been helpful, and see you later.